Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling their unique stories that shaped our guests' careers to the invaluable advice that fueled their success. We're here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insights and perspectives that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. On today's episode, we welcome Jamie Skinner, a fractional controller and CFO renowned for her strategic expertise into transforming accounting systems for high-growth companies. At Reno Accounting Solutions, Jamie partners with founders of 7 to 8 figure businesses, revamping their financial operations to foster intentional investment in people, processes, and products. Their approach combines first principles thinking with relentless improvement mindset, ensuring her clients achieve optimized financial operations and sustainable growth. Join us as Jamie shares how her deep dive into the details and strategic vision helps businesses harness their financial health for success. Jamie, welcome to Prodig Conversations.
Hey, thanks for having me, Zane.
Yeah, I guess this has been an episode that has been rescheduled multiple times. We're both had things in life pop up, and it's just been easier to reschedule and push it down. So for me, this is one of the most anticipated episodes because I prepared for it multiple times, and life has just got in the way, and that's okay. You know, that's what busy business owners have. We have things happen, and we sort of adjust and move on.
Yep, absolutely. The life of an entrepreneur, for sure.
Yeah, and I always find that such a weird one when people are like, oh, the life of the entrepreneur. I'm like, oh, geez, I guess I am one of those. Like that is sort of part of the title, right? And I assume you sort of see yourself as that as well.
Yeah, I'm just a solopreneur. So I'm doing it all by my lonesome and just living that, roller coaster of the entrepreneur life for sure.
Great. So let's start where I like to start with all these conversations. What was the decision to get into accounting? How did that come about?
It's kind of interesting how it happened for me. I kind of fell into it. I'll kind of start back with where I actually wanted to go growing up. And my entire life growing up, I was completely obsessed with school. I loved learning. I was a huge bookworm. And I actually really enjoyed being able to go back into the classroom, like during summer breaks and different opportunities to help my teachers and kind of be like a teacher's assistant. And I just absolutely loved being around little kids and just being in that school environment. So my whole life growing up, I knew I was going to be a first grade teacher. That was always what I was going to be. So when I got into my first semester of college, I started taking the initial courses for it. And for some reason, it just didn't resonate the same for me. And I made the decision, maybe this isn't the right path for me. I just wasn't sure because it just didn't feel like it was sticking for me. So at that point, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. Growing up, I never had a lot of exposure, like a lot of high school students do these days, to different career paths, different mentors, just different industries and such. So I felt really lost. I had no idea what else might interest me. And while I was trying to make that decision of what to do next, I started working at a car dealership in Northern California. Huge car dealership, very busy all the time. Really loved the fast pace of it. And I came in as a service receptionist, and then I moved into their office as an office clerk. So I was busy all day running files, doing errands, just kind of really helping out wherever I could. And on the days when I would finish and I was bored, basically, I would go to my manager and I said, what can you teach me? There's got to be something else I can learn how to do to help you guys. So she started showing me very foundational data entry, working on submitting service contracts and things like that. And it was the first time I had ever heard of debits and credits. And I was astounded by it. I was like, the concept of always having to balance, and it was number based, and I loved math growing up. It just seemed like, hey, this might be something that would interest me. So I went back and took my first intro to accounting course, and it just hit me. I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. So started pursuing that. And, as I'm getting through college, it is just really hitting home to me. This is something I'm really passionate about. It's really fun for me. It was like a big puzzle, essentially. And I love any kind of puzzle, a board game puzzle, mysteries to get through and stuff. I love puzzles. So it
Hmm.
really resonated with me. And I even had this one crazy semester where, because I took so long to figure out what I was doing, I was kind of behind pace on graduating. And I was like, you know what? I want to kick a couple of semesters off. So while I was working part time as just a entry level accountant, I decided to do this crazy thing one semester, and I took 24 upper division accounting courses at once, one semester,
Wow.
so I could knock 2 semesters off. And I know I could never ever do that again, but it really showed me what kind of grit and determination I could do if there was something I was really passionate about. And it just kind of really showed me, what I'm capable of. So I got through that. I graduated, started interviewing for my first full time roles, and I had to start deciding between a couple different routes. Everybody knows there's public accounting. Wasn't interested in that. I interviewed with a couple of different like state agencies where I would come in like the audit route. And then
Hmm.
I also was interviewing for a corporate office for a healthcare system in California. And as I was kind of weighing the pros and cons of them, there was a lot of differences between them, I found. And this is something that's probably going to plague a lot of newcomers coming into the accounting space is like, which route do you go? One thing that really deterred me from the state agency is that they said, no matter how good you are, how smart you are, guaranteed it will take you at least 2 years to promote. There's just really no getting around that.
Yeah.
And that did not sit well with me because I'm a really big go getter. I really love learning and progressing, and that just really turned me off. So, because of that, I decided to go the healthcare route. And that was a phenomenal experience for me. I'm so glad that I went that way. And it really kind of set off the trajectory for the rest of my career. I had so many different opportunities going that way. Um,
Let's go back to that
yeah.
decision in college. I wanted to be a teacher back in the day as well before I went
Hmm.
to college, and I was, you know, my guidance counselor at the time and my parents were like, go study accounting. You're good at
Hmm.
accounting. We had it as a high school subject. You can do it. You can come back and be a teacher, right?
Hmm.
Which is great. I use that passion for wanting to teach people now on my daily
Hmm.
basis by trying to give people education as far as possible. But I sort of feel the same way. That whole like I think I wanted
Hmm.
to be a teacher, but when I actually look at what a teacher does now with the eyes of an adult, I can see
Hmm.
how that can like I would struggle to resonate with as well, right? Because I think I'm trying to change people's lives when really I'm not. I'm just trying to push them through and
Hmm.
make sure they're successful. What sort of put you off the teaching route at that point? Why did it not resonate with you?
You know, I try to remember back all the time why I had that feeling, and nothing really stands out in my memory of it. I just, I don't know, like something just wasn't, it just wasn't there once I started taking the classes. And
Hmm.
I knew that I wanted to be passion driven in whatever I did. And because that feeling wasn't there, I wasn't going to just keep doing it because that's what I had thought my whole life. I
Yeah.
knew that I needed to have that passion there and it wasn't. So I had to go out and seek it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, and it's funny because you talk about passion, and there's not a lot of
Hmm.
people that say, "Hey, I opened an accounting textbook, and that was the most
Yeah.
exciting thing I've ever done." Right? Even the best accountants aren't necessarily excited by accounting. So,
Hmm.
talk me through what was that feeling like starting to learn accounting? Like was it just that it was a great opportunity the way you came into it, sort of
Uh-huh.
rose-colored glasses on? You're just like, "Oh my word, I'm learning something new," and you think that excited you, or is there something
I mean,
more deeper to it?
that could be part of it. I don't think that's like really the blanket answer though, because there's definitely aspects, specific subject matter in my undergrad and graduate courses that I loathed, did not like.
Hmm.
I hated tax.
Hmm.
That's why one other reason why I didn't go the public route because I wanted nothing to do with tax, nothing to do with audit. I really loved corporate accounting, and I don't know why, but it just clicked for me so easily. And considering the fact that I had never been exposed to it until I was 19 years old, and then I went into it and I just picked it up flawlessly. It just, like I said, it really resonated with me, and I found the challenge of it really exciting, because I know that when you get into those more difficult courses, it gets really complex. But to me, like I said, it was just a big puzzle and just figuring things out. And the whole aspect of reconciling was really appealing to me. Again, it was just like the puzzle aspect of it was really fun and challenging. And I thrive on challenge. So it just was a really good fit for me because of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information there. A lot of people always think
Mm-hmm.
accounting's boring. You're doing the same thing over and over, but realistically, it's just a puzzle that you have to solve on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis because something
Yep.
pops up. Life's not perfect. People don't always follow procedure, and you're just trying to put the pieces together to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what happened historically and how that's going to affect the future. It's a good way, it'd be good to put that piece just in front of other young people who are thinking
Mm-hmm.
maybe accounting's the route for them. Well, here it is. It's more than just boring,
Mm-hmm.
debits and credits. It's the
Yeah.
problem solving of it, which makes it exciting on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so another piece that really started to excite me for doing accounting. So when I was working in the healthcare corporate office, not only did I have the opportunity to promote pretty quickly within that company, I had a lot of opportunity to do a lot of process changes and creation. So this was back in like 20 2009 to 2013, I was there. And it was just at the beginning of when they were trying to make the transformation from being a paperless accounting office. And I got to be at the forefront of that. So I was one of the youngest people in the office, and I was very excited at the idea of creating these new processes to make things more efficient and to make them digital. And I was all on board for that. And there were a lot of people in the office that were not. They liked
Mm-hmm.
their paper and their highlighters and all that kind of stuff. So when I initially got the opportunity to start working on these processes, like the first one being working on a completely paperless bank reconciliation, which for a hospital is a complete animal. It is
Yep.
intense. It would take like 4 to 5 business days of hours for a senior accountant to do one.
Yep.
And after I did this digital transformation on it of doing, data dumps into it and everything and using formulas, I got it down to like a 1 to 2 day process. And just that in itself just excited me so much. And seeing the difference it made in my coworkers' day to day tasks and how much less they dreaded doing the work, how much faster it was done, really just lit a fire under me. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to keep doing this kind of stuff. So I just kept getting all these opportunities to do those types of things. And it was something I really thrived on and enjoyed. So it wasn't just doing the pencil pushing data entry accounting. I was really looking at the processes surrounding it, and just kind of going with that in a different direction. It was really fun for me.
Yeah, and just looking at your resume, you had great opportunities there, and you clearly took them with 2 promotions in 4 years, which is
Mm-hmm.
always super impressive, especially at a big company. You got to put your hand up, right? You can't just be sort of sitting in the middle
Mm-hmm.
hoping that somebody will see you.
Yeah.
Obviously, an early introduction to automation and technology, which is nice as well, because that is, especially nowadays, that is one of the fun places in accounting is
Mm-hmm.
trying to bring in that automation, bringing that
Mm-hmm.
technology, try to improve processes, make things easier, smoother, so business owners can get better decisions. So
Yeah.
an early picture of the way Jamie planned to take her career. But
Mm-hmm.
let's keep working through it. You spent
Yeah.
4 years at Dignity Health, so that was a
Yeah.
nice big opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your next couple of steps.
Yeah. So the next promotion opportunity there was to be a supervisor. And I was informed when I tried to apply for the open role, they said, well, company policy is you cannot be a supervisor without having prior supervisory experience. We can't get around that policy. You need to leave and come back. So I said, okay, peace out. I'm leaving. And I was like, I may or may not come back. Who knows? So that was a turning point for me. I got my first assistant controller job at a property development company. And that is actually what stemmed my first thought into going to the consultant route, being an entrepreneur. As I was pursuing my CPA, being a CPA is, supposedly very ethically driven. I was very ethically driven personally as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working at this company and came to find out that they were doing unethical things. And I would not stand for that. So this kind of started my job hopping spree for a while, where I would start working for these companies and I would figure out, something just wasn't right. And there would be a lot of pushback on that type of thing. And I just decide whenever I come across those situations, I'm just going to remove myself from them. So accounts for a few of the reasons why I left a couple of places. But because of that feeling of, oh my gosh, trying to find a job where I'm going to fit in with the company culture, the people are going to be ethical. I was like, maybe I need to remove myself from that completely and be my own boss, because I know that I can just make sure things are handled the way that I feel are appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So back in 2014, I made that realization. And one day I just quit my job and said, I'm going to be a consultant. I'm going to go find clients that I can do bookkeeping for. I'm sure there's so many people out there that are going to relate to this and what it feels like to go through that transition and feel like you really have no support, no foundation to really kind of get your business going. And that's exactly what I experienced that first time. I had no network, just went out there, face to face, trying to meet people to get clients. Got a handful of small bookkeeping clients, but it wasn't anything to really get my business going. And I racked up a ton of credit card debt in the meantime because I had no other income. And 7 months later or so, I was at a breaking point and I said, I can't keep doing this. And I got another job. So I had to come back to the corporate world. Found a great place to work for about a year. Then I made the decision to move. I just needed a change of pace, needed to be somewhere different. So I moved from California to Nevada and I got a job at our local baseball stadium doing accounting there. Within a few months, I got things so completely turned around and working well that I didn't have enough work to work full time. So the CFO that was there at the time had seen my LinkedIn about consulting and stuff. And he's like, is that something you're trying to do right now? And at first I'm like, oh no, like he thinks I'm trying to leave. That's not good. And I said, oh no, that was back when I lived in California. And he said, oh, well, if you're interested, like maybe because you don't have enough work, maybe you could do that again and we could be a client of yours that save us money and help you do that. And I was like, man, that would be so awesome to have a second chance at doing that. So
Yeah.
taking them on as a client really afforded me the foundation financially.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a second shot. And it was amazing. They kept me afloat while I started to network in Reno, where I'm at right now. The community here is just amazing for businesses. Everybody's super supportive, great networking and everything. And everything I was getting was word of mouth. It's just such a close knit community. And I was able to successfully build my business. And I just haven't looked back. It's been amazing. I started my business in 2016. And another reason for the push for me to do that is because I knew I was going to be starting a family and I really wanted to have that flexibility and just be accountable to myself. That was what was really important to me. So that was the start of my consulting.
That is pretty incredible that there was somebody forward thinking enough to look at you and go, hey, if that's something you want to do, we could work together on that.
Mm-hmm.
We could definitely support you. And
is this something you guys would think about? Like you brought it up and it just kind of got me thinking about it again. Let me put something together to show you how it could save you money. It would help me out. I think it would be a really good way for us to work together.
Interesting that the conversation happened. They were open to it. It's not everybody that's just going to be like, cool, go ahead. You're going to tell me you do it all, but you're going to be splitting your time. So, that trust factor is not something that you see all the time. And it obviously talks a lot to that person and their ability to trust the person in front of them, but also it shows a lot into your hard work, your dedication, and clearly what you sort of specialize in, which is making things better by improving processes.
How I got that job with the ballpark originally
Mm-hmm.
They were not hiring for that role at all. I was looking for a job and I was starting to get kind of desperate because I had moved and I needed work. It was November, December, so nobody's hiring at that point. And I just started emailing CFOs of companies in Reno. And I had emailed him and I said, hey, here's my skill set. Does this sound like something that you guys could use? And he wrote me back and he said, actually, I think we do need somebody like that here. Let's go have lunch. So
Wow.
we had lunch and he hired me to come in, and I took that as an opportunity to do all their reconciliations. They had, I think, 11 intercompany accounts between all their different, they had a restaurant, a
Mm-hmm.
merchandise store, events, ballpark, all sorts of different things. And they had 7 years of balance sheets that had never been reconciled. So that was my project for like 3 months. And that was another indication to me that I thought consulting would be really fun, because I love that first phase of coming into a new job where I get to really just put my head down and focus on cleanup work, improvement, and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, why can't I take that and transfer it to being a consulting job where I can just do that over and over for clients? So that really kind of spearheaded it also for me.
That's a lot of cleanup. I mean,
I thought it was fun.
it is, but there is always risk with any of that size of large cleanup, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it can go very right, but it can also go very wrong. And when I mean very wrong, normally when you find really big issues and people don't like the
Mm-hmm.
answers, right? It's
Yep.
not
Yep.
necessarily that you've done anything wrong. They just, that number, that's not how much profit we made. Like, actually, it
Yep.
is. Well, you're wrong. So you're out the door. That
Mm-hmm.
those situations happen all the time because people don't like the bad news,
Yeah.
especially
Yep.
in those situations of the balance sheet cleanups where one of the biggest issues you'll see is double counting of revenue. We raised the AR invoice and then we took the payment directly to income. Those
Mm-hmm.
happen all the time
Yep.
and means everything is understated. So
Mm-hmm.
good on you to sort of put yourself out there. That's a great lesson for people. Like, you just sometimes have to put yourself out there and see what opportunities
Absolutely.
can come your way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there was some people that never responded or said no thank you along the way. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like you sent one email and was magic success, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a good point right there. We shouldn't be scared of rejection. Rejection is normal, right? Like, it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen. Is there any sort of like skill set or advice that you have for people for dealing with those rejections when it does come up?
Yeah. I mean, one piece of advice I always give out to people, professionally, personally, because I feel like it's so very true. Someone once told me that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So that really has been something that's stuck with me my whole adult life, and I really take it to heart. And that has really helped me to say, hey, this is something I really want, or I'd like to have, or I want to do differently. The only way that could ever happen is to take that first step and approach the subject, whether it's asking for something or getting approval on something. You just have to ask. And yes, you might get a no, but what if they say yes? Like, you would never know if you don't ask. So I'm a huge proponent of that quote, and I live my life by it, and I feel it's served me so well to have that mindset, and I try to pass that off onto as many people as I can as well, because it's just such a good mindset to have to help us move forward.
Not great. As a sports person in me, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
look for those opportunities, take those opportunities, and like you said, the worst thing they can say is no. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really going to do you any damage. So not too concerned. You say you call yourself a consultant. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so as a consultant, I think of myself as more trying to be a partner with my clients than, oh, that's just my accountant or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking outside the scope of like my stated work, because I'm partnering with them. I want to ensure their success as much as I can contribute to. So if I see something and I feel it's important to be brought up to them, I'm going to tell them. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to say, oh, it's a sensitive subject or that's not my area. I don't refrain from just trying to, you know, help with transparency on things and just educating my clients as much as possible. They may take it and say, oh, I don't care, it doesn't matter to me, but I feel better knowing that I at least informed them about something and gave them the opportunity to make a decision on it rather than them be in the dark about something. So, as a consultant, I'm always trying to be that partner. And if there's an opportunity to support them in a different way than we originally intended, I'm here to do that for them, whenever I can. So that can look like project work. It could look like increasing scope. I'm here to, support people however I can.
What are the services that you're currently offering your clients?
Yeah, so my main focus right now is fractional controller work. And that's going to be for companies that they need a higher level accounting than just a basic bookkeeper or, an entry level accountant. They need somebody who's going to be working on more complex tasks. If it's accrual based accounting, oversight of compliance, things of that nature. And that kind of tiptoes a little bit into that CFO space where I'm not really doing a full scope CFO work. I don't have experience doing that, like fundraising and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if they need that sounding board to help them think through decisions, how their decisions will impact their financials, doing analysis, forecasting, collaborating with their different department heads to make sure that all of that stuff is incorporated, I'm trying to take it up to that next level for them and to keep costs down by being a fractional resource to them when they don't need somebody full time yet.
Yeah. You've spoken a lot about process improvement. Where does that sort of fit into that consulting world where you're working right now? Because, a lot of that was sort of day-to-day stuff that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
but clearly the passion lives in let's improve processes, let's make things better, let's make things streamlined, let's automate.
Yeah.
So how does that fall into your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, I mean, where does it not fall into my day-to-day activities? It's just something that's always at the forefront of my work. It's something, when I'm talking with prospects that I am very transparent about. I say, if I'm in here and I'm looking at things and I see something can be done better, I'm going to tell you, this is the tech stack I recommend. This is the process that you should implement, and these are the positive effects of doing that. Yes, there may be a little bit of upfront cost or a little upfront time that needs to go into making these changes, but in the long run, it's going to make a huge difference on staying compliant, being accurate, being efficient with your staff's workload. So that's something that I'm just always constantly looking at and always making recommendations on, even if that's not the focus of the project. Because I do take on projects sometimes where I'm really just hired to come in and kind of help clean up all those processes for an accounting department. But if I'm your controller, I'm going to be doing that anyway. So just something I'm always doing.
Well, that's under the job like scope for a controller, right? Make sure there's good process in place that it can be followed on a regular basis to protect the financial information of that business. So makes a lot of sense. But clearly the passion, right? That's it. Everything you've spoken about today, it keeps coming back there. Keeps coming back. Process improvement. Let's improve. Let's improve. And probably the good reason why you are a consultant, because it sounds like once you've cleaned things up, you get a little bit bored because that's what you want to be doing. You want to be fixing rather than doing, which is great. There's not enough people out there willing to make those changes, have those hard conversations, which you've sort of mentioned a few times here as well. And what I've liked so far, every time you've spoken about process improvements, you've led with, I explain to them the benefits of doing this. And that is something that I don't think is done enough. Can you sort of talk us through why you think that is so important?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, my best example to explain that is when I was back in the healthcare accounting office and we had the people that were really resistant to the change of going digitally. And the thing that really tipped me off to how I need to be able to show people how it impacts them positively was when I implemented that new paperless bank reconciliation. And then I showed it to people, the people who were resistant, and they did it and they experienced like how wonderful the change was for them. It just made their task less stressful. It took half the time. It was more automated. It was more accurate. So they just had less hangups and headaches from it. that was my driving point. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to show people what headache I'm taking away, or what bottleneck I'm taking away. And then it's an epiphany moment for them. They're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, I understand it's going to take a little effort up front, but like you say, in the long haul, it's going to be so much easier, so much more enjoyable. And that's always my goal, is to make it less of a headache and to remove those bottlenecks. That's always the goal. So once they see that, that's why I now try to lead with that information instead of trailing with it.
It's a really good strategy, especially in an industry where selling accounting services is selling a grudge purchase, because most
Mm-hmm.
people have it because they have to have it, or their tax
Yeah.
person says their books need to be better, or some
Mm-hmm.
investor wants some reports. So have you found that sort of same process works really well in your sales pitch?
Yeah. Like you say, it is definitely a struggle trying to sell these services a lot of times. And what I find helps me the most is when I'm talking with people, one, they see that I'm really passionate about what I do. Like you say, it's kind of rare to find somebody that feels really passionate about accounting and they see
Hmm.
me talking like this about it and they're like, why do you like this so much? It's such a strange thing. And I'm like, I don't know, I just love accounting and I'd love to, do this stuff for you guys. And so leading with the passion and then just leading with what the transformation looks like, helping them see that end result is, I think, what is most helpful because, you know, being a business owner, the accounting part is what always gets put on the back burner. It's a headache. Nobody wants to deal with it. Like you say, they do it because they have to. So
Hmm.
that creates a lot of friction in the scope of services in general. People just can make it difficult. They don't want to get you what you need, and those sorts of things. So it's a real challenge to work through all of that, but just staying positive and forward focused on what the end result's going to look like, is what will really get people excited about. Oh, this could be a really good change, and it might be a little bit difficult in the beginning, but it's going to be awesome when we're done with this. So that's what I try to focus on, is that transformation aspect.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Jamie, as a solopreneur, what does your day-to-day look like?
Never the same. I have multiple different projects and clients that I'm always working on. I have two young kids that are 4 and 5. So if I have a really busy week, sometimes I have to get up before the kids wake up and I'm trying to work before they wake. And then
Hmm.
I have to go do school drop off and I come home and I'm just trying to stay focused and not bounce around too much. But, there's a lot of different priorities to juggle when you're handling a lot of different clients and a lot of different projects. So for me, it's important just to stay organized and have a priority of what I need to get done for the day. Staying moving around is really important. So I have a under the desk treadmill that I try to walk on the days that I really can't leave my desk too much. And that helps tremendously. And then, I'm out there just like everybody else trying to work on their business. And so I utilize LinkedIn quite a bit, actually. And some weeks and months I'm really consistent, and others I'm not. It just kind of depends on my workload and what it allows and everything. So, you know, I had a few months ago that I was super heavy in business development, and I felt like all I was doing was LinkedIn and having calls and all that kind of stuff. And then I got a flood of work in, and so that tapered down, and then the work went up. So,
Yeah.
as a consultant, how they say it's feast and famine, that is absolutely true. Especially if I'm doing a lot of project based work, it is always going to be different. I never know, each month, like how workload heavy I'm going to be versus business development. So it's just finding a balance of not getting burnt out with either of them and just having that mental capacity to try to stay consistent and, just do the best work that I can and just still trying to build relationships professionally within my network. It's just really important to be putting yourself out there without expecting anything in return and just, yeah, getting out there and doing it.
Do you have any advice on a strategy for people that have a lot going on in their life to stay organized and stay on plan so they make sure they're hitting all their priorities?
Yeah. One thing I've been doing lately is I've been tapping into a lot more, I guess you could say, AI resources. One
Hmm.
thing that I've done recently, I started using this app that records all my meetings, and it
Hmm.
gives me a transcription, it gives me a summary, it gives me action items, and that's been amazing. It helps me make sure I don't forget any important details and less follow up with my clients on certain things. So, trying to utilize tools to build efficiencies within my own business is really important because I pretty much just work by myself. I have a friend that does help me with some bookkeeping occasionally, but that's the extent of my business. I'm not here trying to build a business where I'm going to be hiring a bunch of people. So I have to be really self reliant and accountable and just make sure that I'm setting myself up to be successful, to make sure that I'm putting out good work for my clients, and that I'm not getting too overloaded with anything. So, yeah, it's a
That
balance.
makes sense. What is that app that you're using to record your meetings?
It's called Fireflies.
Firefly.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. It's been great.
Good. I didn't like it that much, but it's more a me problem than a software problem. I haven't actually found any meeting app that I've liked, so that's again, it's probably a me problem.
Well, there's a lot of them out there. I'm sure you haven't tried them all.
Yeah, it's I've made that my team's problem to find one that works, and they just tell me please use it. Another thing that you pointed out, obviously you got two young kids. I have young kids as well, and I know how that can crazy. Granted, my wife handles most of the heavy lifting.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I don't have responsibilities with drop-offs and pickups, and I coach sport, and kids get sick at the wrong
Hmm.
time. So how do you build that into your life? How do you manage the busyness of having young kids while trying to run your own business?
Yeah, well, one thing that I did that I feel has really helped is when I started with my consulting and I had the intention of having this be flexible for my family life, I always intended to never work full time. So I have been trying to strategize my business so that I'm not working full time. And granted, I do have sometimes I pick up projects where it'll increase my workload for a few weeks or a month, but tend to work 20 to 25 hours a week. So I work within the window of when my kids are at school and daycare. Granted, my husband, he works very, very early in the morning, so he gets off, he's home before lunchtime. So when we have school closures because of snow
Fires.
delays and, yeah, fires, we had a fire a couple of weeks ago
Yep.
that school was closed 2 days last week. So it's the weather, the fires, just kids getting sick, anything. I do have that support in my husband being able to help with that stuff as well, but there's really not usually anything so critical in my workday that I can't say, hey, I'm sorry, I need to delay it a day or a week or something like that. And most people are really understanding. We all try to give each other grace in those situations because things come up.
Yep.
And if it's not super urgent, don't make a big deal out of it, basically. So let's just extend grace to each other and help each other out as much as we can with that. And yeah, it's nice having that flexibility to handle that stuff.
Jamie, can you share with us what your goals for your business are in the short term?
It's funny that you asked that because I feel like one thing as an entrepreneur, a lot of us are constantly doing is thinking of new ideas of different things that we can do. Um, that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit is that we love doing new things and helping people in new ways. And I'm constantly trying to think of other ideas to create different kinds of revenue streams or to be able to use my skill set to help more people. And one thing that I know that seems to be a huge need for is for very small business owners where it's like a mom and pop shop or it's just a small operation that are trying to grow. They really don't have the resources to utilize their finances in a way that can help them scale their business and improve their operations. And I feel like there's a gap in where they'd like to have some kind of resource, a second set of eyes to kind of help oversee things, point things out to them, just kind of help them along with the things that a lot of business owners just aren't aware of that they should be. So I've been mulling over this idea and I know I put it out there and I haven't started it yet. I need to get working on it so I can launch it. It's this club that I was thinking of. It's called the Fiscal Guardian Club. And it basically would be a small monthly retainer fee where these business owners can come in and they can have somebody, me, come in and look over their financials, look over their compliance, and just be kind of that set of eyes to be able to say, hey, you need to look at this, you need to change this. Are you aware that this could have this repercussion? Things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
just the areas that they're not aware that they need to be thinking about, that I can kind of put that spark in their mind about, we need to be considering this, or we need to be looking into this, those types of things. So just kind of helping more business owners have peace of mind that they're not going to get themselves in trouble with compliance, or that they're going to be, ready at tax time and things like that. So I feel like there's a lot of people that would really benefit from having some kind of resource to help them out with that without it being a huge financial burden to get that expertise. So that's something I'm all over all the time.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, that micro business space is definitely underserved, and there's some of the big guys like Insure that are trying to, I would say, take advantage of that market rather than help that
Mm-hmm.
market.
Yeah.
But I think where they really need help is real actionable advice, not just the
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day compliance. And that's what most
Yeah.
people are selling. Like, oh, we can do your bookkeeping for super cheap. Well, that's not what we're looking for. Like, a company's small enough, we can put the debits and credits in. It's cash accounting, no problem. But we do need somebody that can look at it and go, hey, here's a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. Like, there's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So I think that is great opportunity, and everybody should be able to take advantage of it once you get that out there. So no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got to
Yeah.
get working on it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, another short term goal I have, I recently was participating in this big project where I assisted a really large e commerce based company in Canada migrate from NetSuite to QuickBooks Online. So they were actually kind of moving backwards when you think about the progression into an ERP system.
Mm-hmm.
But they were told, hey, you don't need NetSuite. You can have something like Katana for your inventory and then move back to QuickBooks to simplify things. And, that's one thing that I really advocate for, is not moving to a big ERP system too soon, because it takes a lot of resources to manage that and to, utilize it correctly. And so I would love to be able to help more companies that have made the switch and then kind of regretted it. They said, oh man, maybe we didn't need this. We're not ready for it. How do we move back? And then also fill in that gap that we were trying to find in using NetSuite. So I would love to start offering that as a service to companies that need somebody who's really acclimated to accounting systems and making sure everything ties correctly, and getting those processes working for them seamlessly. So that's another short-term goal I'd love to start here pretty soon.
Well, let me know when you're ready for that, because I will refer all that work to you, because
I'm ready.
I do not like that. That is not
Yeah,
great work. It is
yeah.
hard to get out of an ERP system. It
Mm-hmm.
is painful to get out of an ERP
Yep,
system, and I
yep.
prefer not to touch that type of project.
Again, it's a big puzzle, and I liked it. So.
It's a puzzle for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it might be, obviously in the wine industry, it's really complicated with the complexity of the
Mm-hmm.
inventory, so which
Yeah,
probably puts me off more. I know there's some places where it can be at least a little bit easier, but
yeah,
gosh, it is a tough space.
yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've received to help you along with your success?
So I used that answer earlier. Do you want
Mm-hmm.
me to go over it again?
I want you to give me another one.
Oh
Rack
no.
that brain.
Okay.
Pull another one out of your head.
Best piece of advice you've ever received. Gosh. No, I don't know if I would say it was advice, more so maybe just kind of mirroring my dad. My dad has been such an influence on my personality and the way that I work. Very, very hardworking person, never says no to anything, huge people pleaser. And he just always showed me that if you just work hard for what you want, like anything's possible. So that's something that I try to instill in myself. And then, like, whenever I'm trying to help someone else through something, sometimes we have to make hard decisions to get where we want to be. But if you put in the effort, like, you're the only person that's going to make something happen. So you can't rely on other people to do that. So
Yeah.
if there's something you want, you got to make it happen. You got to put in the effort. And I think that's so, so important, especially in this day and age. There's a lot of people that just kind of feel like they can sit back and let things happen to them. That's not
Mm-hmm.
how it works. You got to make it happen. So That's that's something that I feel has served me really, really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, both of those sort of fall into the same area. You're right. Everybody thinks sometimes opportunities are just going to fall into their lap,
Mm-hmm.
and they do for people. But generally, that comes because people have asked questions, not being scared of the outcome being no, and they've
Mm-hmm.
put in the hard work somewhere else. You
Yeah.
know, you sort of go back to that first opportunity you had at your first full-time job at Dignity Health. You worked hard for those two promotions. It didn't just
Mm-hmm.
magically happen. It's not like you just rolled out of bed one day and they said, "Congratulations, you're promoted."
Yep. Not what happened. Nope.
You were asking questions, you were getting involved, you're willing to make changes, put in
Mm-hmm.
the hard work, and it sort of led to success. And I think both of those are great pieces of advice, and no better advice than actually seeing somebody else implement that advice rather than
Mm-hmm.
just telling you this is what you got to do. They're actually living it themselves. So that's great
Yeah.
that you had that role model in your dad to be able to show you
Yeah.
the right way.
Yeah. And absolutely. And it ties in again with that whole thing about following your passion. That makes it so much easier to make those things happen. If you're passionate about it, follow it, and good things will follow you.
I want to circle back and sort of ask you for some tips and advice to some people. You
Mm-hmm.
started a consulting career, it didn't work out. Your own words, it sort of failed, and you had to jump back into a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And then you took up the opportunity again. You said, well, I'm going to give this a second go. And most people would just give up on that first time, right? They'd be like, this is not for me. I can't do this. Let me just stick to this 9 to 5 and hope for the best,
Mm-hmm.
even if it wasn't making them the happiest in the world. What advice do you have for people to sort of go give it that second chance? If that's what it really feels like you want to do, that's the way you feel happiest.
Mm-hmm.
How do how did you convince yourself that, like, I know you had the sort of protection of an automatic client. So, there's
Mm-hmm.
that, which is, again, you had to ask the question. The answer could have been no. You took the opportunity. You worked
Mm-hmm.
hard to get there. But what advice do you have people to make sure that they don't give up on their dreams?
Well, first off, it has to be something that you're willing to make sacrifices for. It is never easy starting a business or going off on your own. No matter what kind of support system you have, you're going to face challenges. You're going to have really hard days where you don't want to do it anymore. I mean, I go through that up and down of, oh man, should I still be doing this? Should I go back to work? All the time still. But I know in my heart that this is what I'm meant to do, and I'm going to make sure I find a way to make it work. So, from my first stint at trying to do consulting, I learned a very expensive lesson. Don't just quit your job and not have any kind of network. That was my mistake. That may not be
Mm-hmm.
everybody's mistake. Some people may be able to make that transition and be very successful, but that was a mistake for me because my business was very word of mouth driven and I didn't have a network. I had no way to bring in work. So I learned that lesson and I knew I'm not going to make that mistake again. So that's why when I had the opportunity to take on my job and have that foundation, um, that gave me the confidence. Okay, I'm going to mitigate this mistake that I made the first time. That's not going to be an issue. I'm doing things differently this time. So I mean, that would be my thing is that you're always going to be making mistakes as a business owner. It's just going to happen. Nobody's perfect. Nobody knows what they're doing. We may all seem like we do, but we don't. And all you can do is be flexible and pivot and just know that this is your passion and you can make it happen if you try hard enough. And when life throws you a curveball, make a change, do something different, approach it differently, talk to different people. Just have a network of resources out there of people who you can reach out to when you need help on something, when you need an answer to something. Everybody out there is struggling, and you'd be surprised how many people are just willing to lend an ear or to assist you with something because we've all been there. So don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask a question. The more that you're putting yourself out there, the easier it'll be for people to say yes when you ask for something. But everybody's been there, and we're all here to help each other. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, power of the network, right? Having people
Mm-hmm.
around you with similar thoughts, processes, share ideas, bounce ideas. But I do like what you brought up there, that as a business owner, you're going to make mistakes. As a leader, you're going to make mistakes. As a person, you're going to make mistakes. It happens. I make mistakes every single day. And I try to tell my kids this all the time. Like, honestly, probably make 10, 20, 30 mistakes a day, and it's okay, because it's how you react to that mistake. It's not just like telling my 7-year-old, don't just throw yourself on the ground and be totally upset about it, which that's what we do when we sort of give up, right? We're having that little mini tantrum ourselves, but rather using that mistake as a learning opportunity, assessing what went wrong, where did we go wrong, how could we do it better in the future, and using that to be better at whatever we're doing tomorrow. I think that is such great advice. So many people just let that one mistake get them down, and they focus in. I made that one mistake. Can you believe it? Like, no, but you probably made 100 good decisions that day anyway. So on the balance of things, you're still good. So don't stress about it too much. As long as you're learning from it, it'll be okay.
Yeah, and just be forthcoming with it. If it's something you did for a client, tell them right away. Say, hey, I made this mistake. Here's what I'm going to do to remedy it or make sure it doesn't happen again. People appreciate, transparency and open communication. So just be open about it, and people will extend more grace to that. So
yeah, for sure. Open and honest communication with a solution, and that's the big point that people forget. Come with a solution. That makes a big difference. It definitely, buffers the blow a little bit. People are like, okay, you screwed up. Okay, but you know how to fix it? Great. Okay, great. Let's move forward.
Yeah,
You might still get fired, but that's okay. That's how we learn. That's the lessons on rejection right there. Jamie, this has been a great conversation. You clearly are very passionate about accounting, love improving processes. You're a mom of 2, but I'd like to learn something more about you on the personal side, so we can get a better insight into who you are as a person outside of the business world.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think something that would probably show you a little bit more about me personally is probably what I would be doing if I wasn't doing accounting right now, not when I was a child thinking, oh, I'm going to be a teacher, but like, what would I do right now if I just quit my job and did whatever I felt passionate about?
Yep.
And, living in Reno, I'm in the mountains, I'm in the nature a lot. I grew up in the foothills of Northern California, so I was in the forest and everything there too. And, I've really learned that the mountains are always calling me. I love being in the mountainscape and around the trees and everything. Don't get me wrong, I love a good visit to the ocean and everything too, but I love the mountains. And we have the most amazing sunsets and sunrises and lightning storms here. And it's something that I could just get just stuck just watching them. I absolutely love them. So I would love to one day pick up a camera, quit my job, and just travel the world and take pictures of lightning storms and sunsets and nature and animals. And I just think that would be so much fun. It's just really where I feel at peace and calm. And I just absolutely love that kind of stuff. So that would be fun to do someday.
So Jamie the accountant, Jamie the mom, and Jamie the photographer. Fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Jamie, this has been really great. At Protea Conversations, we love to end with some rapid fire questions. If you're ready, I have 5 questions for you.
Yeah, shoot.
Number 1, what's your dream vacation?
Man, dream vacation. I would probably say just somewhere out of the country. I've never left the United States, and I've actually only been to a handful of states in the U.S., including Hawaii, which is fun. But I would love to really just travel anywhere and just see different cultures. Maybe go to Germany. That's where my heritage is from. Maybe go to Spain. That'd be fun. So yeah, just get out and see other countries.
Great. Number 2, do you prefer audiobooks or paper books?
Paper books. Oh my gosh. I download audiobooks all the time, and I never get to them because I just can't focus on them when I'm doing other things. And I love paper books. You ask anybody, I've always got a book with me anywhere I go, because if I get stuck somewhere and I'm bored, I really want to just whip out my book and be able to start reading it, and I could just get lost in them. So definitely paper.
Great. What are you reading at the moment?
Oh gosh, it's a Colleen Hoover book. That's what I've been on lately. And I know, a lot of controversy. There's haters and lovers of her, but I think her stories are pretty enthralling and fun to get lost in. So yeah, good stuff.
Well, it's your pastimes. As long as you enjoy it, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Question number 3, if you only had 20 minutes to exercise, what would that exercise be?
I would be lifting weights. My favorites are to do deadlifts, it just feels really good to get out there and throw the heavy to me weights around. If you do it fast enough, you get cardio too, so that's good.
Great. Question number 4. What is your favorite piece of technology that you're currently using to make your life better?
Oh my gosh, that's an easy one. So this is probably going to seem really silly, but I have a coffee mug that stays hot. So yeah, it's an electronic coffee mug, and after I started having kids, I hated how every morning my coffee would get cold. So I'd be running around chasing the kids. I never got hot coffee, and then I discovered this coffee mug that stayed hot, and it could stay hot for an hour, hour and a half. So I could sip on it all morning, and it stays perfect temperature that I wanted at. It's amazing.
So funny when you mentioned that. I was like, the first thing that went in my head, I was like, that is such a mom answer, a coffee mug that keeps my coffee warm.
It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, great. Our last question, what is your favorite childhood meal?
Childhood meal. Oh gosh. Well, I actually have one of my books from when I was in school. I think I was in like second or third grade, where it was my month to be the star, and everybody had to write about me. And if you look back in that, everybody wrote Jamie's favorite food is broccoli and cheese. So my favorite food growing up was broccoli with that cheese sauce on it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really a big meat eater when I was a kid, so probably just broccoli and cheese and a dinner roll and maybe some mac and cheese or something to go with it.
That's incredible. Jamie, thank you so much for your time. And with that, we end another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insights from our guests and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Prodig Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.